Hey guys, I want to talk to you a little bit today about some more cold approach stuff. I want to go over this topic of openers a little more with you guys. I know we've talked a lot in the past about different ways to open a conversation with a stranger. When you're out in the real world, you're trying to do cold approach in a daylight hours, every day sort of setting. I've talked so much about this in the past. If you go back and check out that playlist of videos, this is touched on probably in bits and pieces, but I wanted to compile it all together and talk a little bit more with you about this today, because I think this is like one of the biggest curiosities, like the biggest questions that most guys have when you're contemplating like how in the heck am I even going to go about conducting a cold approach. I mean, there's so much that goes into, I think, just you developing your psychology and your confidence level, all this kind of stuff that needs to be worked on. But this issue of the openers very specifically is important, um, just to think about. And I want to start out by explaining to you guys that I've got three tiers of openers here that I'm going to talk with you about today. But I want you to think about them in a little bit different way right off the bat. I'm going to lay them out to you in like good, better, and best. I'm not going to say that one is like really bad and one is amazing, because I'm firmly of the belief that doing something, doing anything, even if it's the crappiest opener in the world, even if it's like weird and awkward and like whatever, it's still good in the sense that's going to be our bottom rung, our bottom tier. It's good in the sense that you did something. You didn't sit there like a deer in the headlights and do nothing. You actually took some sort of action. You piped up, you open your mouth, you try to do something with the situation. And additionally, I'll go on to say that the opener itself is really not as important as you might think, because once you kind of graduate past this point of like, you'll realize really quickly that the opener is a very brief moment in time, and more importantly is actually what comes after the opener, like how you graduate out of that first moment, which is 99% of the time going to be awkward, even if you go with like the quote unquote like best opener that I'm going to give you here. You've got to graduate out of that initial like kind of like shocking moment of talking to a stranger and like evolve that into a pleasant, flowing, cordial conversation that might actually lead to somewhere that quite frankly like is doing the job of like building like some very small amount of rapport with this new person in that very brief like 5 to 10 minute period of time. So like I said, guys, no opener is bad. Just doing something is good, and the opener is not that important, really. At the end of the day, it's the conversation and the handling of the situation that's more important that comes after that. So let's just come back and talk about these three tiers of openers that I want to describe to you. So the three tiers, once again, good, better, best. The good opener is something like a canned opener. That's what like most people want to know. Like, just give me some line, something that I can say anywhere in any situation to any woman. That's not the most advantageous thing I think you can do for yourself. But like I said, in lack of any other, any other sort of option, or if you're just stuck in the moment, you can't think of anything, like sure, like go with a canned opener, give it a try. It might not work out. It might come across as cheesy or planned or kind of disingenuous. I mean, there's all sorts of things that women know how to read these sorts of things. They know when they're getting some sort of canned line. But once again, I come back to this concept about, it's more about like what comes out of that initial moment. Like, how do you recover from, maybe those first initial thoughts? Like, can you make her feel like good in your presence in that first like 5 to 10 minutes, or at least like safe or like non-threatened, or like any one of these things? And can you evolve it from there into something that might actually go somewhere? So the canned opener, I'll give you the example. I mean, I've used this one in the past where I've walked up to somebody and said like, hey, like, did you happen to go to the XYZ university, which is the university I went to? Oh, you look like somebody I knew from, somewhere in the past. And like, oh, it's not you. Oh, you got a twin out there in the world, blah, blah, blah. Oh, by the way, where are you from? What are you doing? How's your day going? All this kind of stuff. So that's an example of the straight up canned opener. You could use that in any sort of circumstance, anywhere, anytime. Results might vary. I've had good success, ironically, with that, because like I said, it always came back to like, that first couple moments of talking and establishing that we didn't go to the same university before and we were complete strangers was like 30 seconds. And then every single time it went on to like a 5 to 10 minute conversation, at least in the times where it actually went somewhere. Maybe I got her phone number, or maybe I got to see her again. It always went in that same sort of similar fashion. So base level, bottom line, the good opener. The next one is what I consider to be like the half canned opener, where you're going into like most situations with like some sort of concept in your head about, I'll give you the example of, if you've got it in your mind, a good way to open up a conversation with somebody is to compliment them on something that they're wearing that day. Okay. So, partially can, because like in your mind, you're just looking out for some article of clothing you think looks cool or whatever, but it's of course going to be subject and different, on the day of, and, the person that you approach, like if they're wearing, shorts today, or if they're wearing a dress tomorrow, or if they got cool sunglasses or like whatever it is, but it's just this still sort of, type of concept where you've got to make like some sort of read, of course, on like what she's actually wearing today, right? So it's this partially, like I said, canned sort of, concept in your mind, but you've actually got to do some analysis, like in the moment, in the real world, you know, just making a read in the situation. So the partially can, like I said, a little bit better, because I think it's a little bit more natural. It's something that's purely relevant to the moment, right? It's not totally off the wall. Like, hey, you're a stranger. Did we go to school together? It's like, hey, today you're wearing this thing. I think it's really cool. Like, where did you get that? It looks great on you. Whatever. Same sort of thing, guys, though. You're going to graduate probably within 30 to 60 seconds away from talking about her sunglasses and where she bought them at, to like something else, like how her day is going, where she's from, like what do you do around here, like whatever, this natural conversation hopefully flows for you. Same sort of thing. And the final one I'll give you guys, in my opinion, is like the best one. So the completely uncanned cold approach opener. And that is something that is like just 100% purely, like strictly relevant to the moment of like what's happening to you in that very real time sort of situation. So like if there's something going on around you both that you could, maybe pipe up and say, hey, like, wow, did you see that car like almost hit this guy on the street corner over there? Or like, oh my gosh. Or maybe you're in a grocery store. Hey, have you bought this brand of, cereal before? Like, what do you think about this? Like, it's just something like a little bit more like real time. Like you've had to do some analysis. It is like completely like you're in the moment. You're having to use your brain a little bit more quickly, let's say, and a little bit more analytically than in those other two examples I gave you. But it's just, I feel like it's a lot more natural of a way to start a conversation, because it's like, the first two, I think it's kind of more easily for women to construe as like, oh, well, I know what this guy's up to, like, straight away. But like this completely uncanned one, like in a weird way, you can kind of play this one off. Like if things don't go well, it's like, well, no big deal. I was just asking about cereal. Like, go on with my day, you go on with your day, and like, no big deal. It's not completely readily apparent that you're trying to maybe hit on her, or you have like some sort of ulterior motive of like getting her phone number or getting her out on a date. But odds are, like most of the time, like she knows just by pure virtue of the fact that you're talking to her, like she knows what you're up to. But it's not as threatening. I feel like it's a whole lot more natural. And then like the other thing I'll say about this like completely uncanned sort of thing where you're observing in the moment is like that can more easily graduate you into some sort of like relevant conversation where you start talking about breakfast foods or something, and you start talking about the cool place in town to have breakfast, or like whatever. These conversations just seem to start in a different manner and maybe like track their way into different places. You don't have this like odd period where you've got to shift gears from talking about the university connection or what she's wearing today into something more like more content that you can evolve into a more meaningful conversation with a lot more topics that you can explore or whatever. So I hope laying that out in that fashion to you guys, like I said, good, better, best, the completely canned, the half canned, and the uncanned. Hopefully you can see a little bit more context here. Hopefully you can think about these things when you're in the moment. And I'll tell you too, like just my progression, I think like most of us as guys, like as you explore this a little bit more, you try to do this a little bit more, I think most of us do quite honestly start down in like the pure canned realm of things. And then you kind of graduate up the ladder a little bit. You go into the half canned stuff. And then by the end of, your process of developing yourself, developing your talking skills, and developing your body language and just the mechanics of how you move and how you analyze, situations, all this kind of stuff, it will be very easy for you at that point to just jump into like any moment with an uncanned opener. You'll be, like something I'm always talking about, like using your brain. You're not so like hyper fixated on just like how hot she might look to you or whatever. You're actually like living in this real moment, and you're still like plugged into like what's going on around you, and that becomes like the meat or the ammunition or the spark that you're going to use to like start that conversation in a natural way. And like the most smoothest, I think, you know easygoing, it comes across as smooth sort of way to other people. It's probably like the best option. But like I said, guys, I just did a video the other day. I'm a firm believer on like just opening your mouth and doing nothing more than that is a big win. So don't beat yourself up when you're out there trying this stuff. When you're doing it, you're gonna crash and burn a lot. You're gonna have like 9 out of 10 girls. Even when you get good at this stuff, guys, 9 out of 10 times it's not gonna go anywhere. But you're just hoping that you're just trying something. You're just doing what you can do. You're just living your life. There's nothing wrong with this. Keep putting yourself out there. Okay. That's the biggest thing, right? All right, guys. I hope that makes sense. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Talk to you soon.